What is up, everybody? Hope you guys can see me. Let me see, make sure that I'm live. All right. What's up, guys? Hope you guys are doing well. Guys, today I'm going over 5-step flipping framework to make $100 to $200 a day in profit. So I'm going to use the whiteboard again. I used it last week. Everybody seemed to like it. A couple of things. We got a couple people popping on here. Like fantastic. All right. If you guys can hear me loud and clear, type live in the comments below. That way I can see who's watching and kind of, give shout outs, right? So yeah, today we're going to be going over my 5-step flipping framework. And like I said, I'm going to be sharing it on the whiteboard. What's up, Mike Young? And we got a couple other people popping on too. Fantastic. All right, cool. So before we get into that, I do want to hear about some wins. Whoever's flipping electronics right now, feel free to drop your guys' wins in the comments below. I do got a couple of wins myself this week, so I'll pull those up here real quick. Got quite a few different MacBooks this week. We got an older one. So this is a 2017. Yeah, 2017. So nice 2017. Got a couple others here I picked up. Let me put them down right here, actually. Picked this one up the other day. This one, I believe, is also a 2017, but this is a MacBook Pro. As you can see, it's good, great condition, right? Working fine, perfectly. So picked that one up the other day. And the way I got these guys is like, I use MacBook ads, okay? So, and then this one, I believe, had a bad LCD. Double check, I think so. No, actually not. This one was a 2021 M1 MacBook. So it was a really good one. So this one will sell for a good solid 250-ish in profit. And then this one had a bad LCD. So drop your guys' wins below. Those are just a couple of mine. We did buy a couple of phones this week. I got all kinds of stuff packed up back there. You guys can see here, we already got those things packed. So they're right here, actually. So all of these devices, all of these are filled with phones. These are older. We had a wholesale shipment come in a while back. So we got a whole bunch of iPhone 7s, iPhone 8s, and then a couple of newer ones as well. But as you guys can see, they're selling every day. So it works out, right? So we got phones going. And I just got back from the post office, shipped out 5 things. So it was a good day. Can't complain. So money's coming in. I'm going to be picking up a Nintendo Switch OLED console tonight at the gym of all places. So it's going to be nice, right? Let's see, $1,000 in it'd be a little less than 1,000. Probably be more like 700-ish, John. So, but hey, I'll take it, right? I'll take the 700 in profit. It's not a problem for me. What's up, Mike? Mark, I used to sell used TV for $70 to $100 in profit a pop. That's awesome, dude. Good stuff. Sounds like you're already a reseller. Fantastic. All right, guys. So a couple other wins I do want to share. We've been crushing it here lately on pretty much everything other than phones. As you guys can see, a couple of student wins here. A couple orders going out today. More going out today. Just some free game here. Sony PlayStation VR sets are doing quite well when we part them out. Then we got the Wii U's. Yes, Wii still sell pretty well. We got the Mario Nintendo Switch here. These things have been selling like fantastic. We got an HTC Vive, another Rift S. Got a headset sold, and then Steven picked this up from a freaking yard sale. That was wild. So he got all of this for $100. Talk about a steal, man. Like, he's got a ton of games here, and then all of the other ones too. So bunch of wins this week, right? So bunch of wins. People are still winning with phones, but we're doing quite well with game consoles and stuff too. So let me give you guys the 5-step process on how we do this, right? So let me go ahead and pull up the whiteboard here. Oh, all right. Back to the whiteboard. Need to use the one on my wall eventually, but it is what it is. So you guys can see this. Okay. So this is the whiteboard, and this is how I'm going to explain it to you guys, because I think it's a better visual than me actually showing it on the computer, because I lose people that way. And this is a good overview. So we're going to start right here with the automated sourcing method. Basically what this is, guys, this is Facebook and Google Ads. Okay. Facebook and Google Ads. So as you guys can see here, we're using my 115 marketing method, which you guys can find on my YouTube channel. I give it away for free. Okay. The 115 method, automated sourcing method, it's given away for free on my YouTube channel. Okay. And then we have Google Ads. So Google Ads are a little bit simpler. We have an ad group and then an ad, just an ad, right? And then essentially what we do with those, we just target eco-ATM. So why not just target the people who are the best in the business at, keywords, right? And then what happens after that? So we set up our automated sourcing method, and then we start getting messages. Okay, this is like step one. Okay. I get a question. Okay, cool. So we get leads, get messages from people looking for a price, right? What they're looking for is a price. And for this part, I did write out, and I'm in the process of actually building this part out. So this will be a whole thing here soon, but this is what I started writing out last night, just so it's a little bit easier for people to understand. So Facebook ads right here. So these are Facebook ads, interruption ads, and then behavior ads. Okay. I do want to explain the difference between the two really quickly. Facebook ads are called interruption ads. Okay. They're interrupting the newsfeed. Those little sponsored ads that you guys see on your newsfeed whenever you're scrolling Facebook, those are Facebook ads. They're sponsored ads. All right. And they are traditionally called interruption marketing. They're basically spam. Okay. Let's just put it that way. And the way they work, right, is like this. So you got over here, you got, this is the ad. So we're going to pretend this is the ad. This is sponsored up here, right? The very first thing that people see is the photo. That's the very first thing that the eye sees. Okay. They see the photo. The next thing that the people see is the headline. Okay. The very last thing that people see on a Facebook ad are the words up here. Okay. Everybody sees the photo first. That's why we want the photo to say something like I buy phones, or I buy game consoles, I buy Nintendo Switches. We want it to say that. Okay. And then you guys can see here like the whole lead process. So you get the lead, right? We get the lead, first contact, they're interested, they're not sold. They are essentially a cold lead. Okay. How did they find us? They weren't looking for us, right? This is interruption marketing. They weren't looking for us. Okay. So, and then we either close them, right? And then we meet up with them, or we follow up, right? And then if we have to negotiate, we move to the bullet negotiation method, right? Or you just start negotiating with them. Okay. No close, then we move them to, they're usually likely shopping around, things like that, right? Essentially what we're doing in the follow-up sequence is we're trying to become like a thorn in their brain. Okay. So whenever they are ready to sell something, they think about us immediately. Now with Google Ads, it's a little bit different. I'm not going to go into the whole process of showing that just because it'll take longer than I have. But with Google Ads, basically what's happening here is people are searching on Google, sell my phone. Okay. And then they are likely going to like eco ATMs or things like that and getting a low ball. That's usually what's happening. Okay. And then they start looking for other options. Okay. So that's in a nutshell, that's how Google Ads work. Just some overall basics. So that is kind of the whole gist when it comes to getting leads. Okay. That's this part of this whole process. Okay. Now, once we, and you guys can ask questions, feel free to go for it. I'll answer them once I'm done explaining this. So that's leads. The next part is once we start getting the leads, we need to know how to appraise and make offers on these devices. Okay. So we need to know how to make offers. So we appraise, we make the offer, right? Let's just say we go to eBay, right? And, you know, we find 3 sold listings on eBay, right? Let's just say it's for an iPhone X, right? Let's just say that. And we go to eBay and we see that there's sold listings for 100, 110, and 105, okay? So then we divide that by 3, we add it up, divide it by 3, and we come out to $105, the average sold price, okay? Now, what we want to do is we want to figure out what to offer, right? So we take 105, we multiply it by 40% or 0.40, and then figure out what our offer is. So the offer for this, when it's selling for about 105, we'd offer $42, okay? That's kind of what the offer would be, right? You can go a little bit lower, but not likely going to close it. But hey, never know. I buy phones for 10, 20 bucks. I do it all the time. So the next part here, guys, is the negotiation part. And I figured I'd draw this out a little bit better than trying to explain it, because I know a lot of people have questions about this part. So I'm working on trying to get this thing a little bit more dialed in and, you know, make it look great, right? So I'm actually in Canva, actually building this whole thing out right now. Now, I do want to point out, like, before we get into the negotiation, you guys are probably thinking like, yeah, Chris, but I don't know how to get leads. I don't know how to set up the 115 method. I don't know how to set up Google Ads. I don't know how to do that stuff. Yeah, neither did I. I didn't know how to do any of that in the beginning, okay? And then you're probably also thinking like, Chris, I don't know, like, you know, what an interruption ad is. I don't know what those are, right? That's great. Neither did I. Okay. I didn't know any of this stuff whenever I first started. In the beginning, I didn't know how to appraise things. I made the wrong offers for things. That's going to happen. Okay. If you're new to this and you're learning on your own, that stuff's going to happen. You're going to make mistakes, and that's all part of the learning process. Okay. So I just want you guys to know that. I didn't know all of this stuff in the beginning either. Right. So moving on to the negotiation part here, which is step 3. So we get the lead, right? We got the lead right here. Then we want to ask 2 questions. The 2 questions are, what device do you have and what problems does it have, right? And then if they say yes to our offer, you know, after we make the offer, because we make it right here. If they say yes, we send them the location and the times. I always recommend that we choose 2 very specific times and 1 location, okay? Now, if they say no, this is bullet number 1. Okay, so this right here is bullet number 1. Then we ask like, okay, cool. Do you know what carrier it's with, or is it unlocked, right? And then we figure that out. And if we can make, you know, let's just say it's like paid off or something, or it's unlocked, we can then make another offer, and a better offer at that. Okay, so we anchor them with our first offer based on the device and what problems it has. And then the next thing we do is, if they say no, right, again, then we go to, or if they say yes, it's the same thing for yes every time. But if they say no again, we ask the gigabytes, right? How many gigabytes does it have? Is it 256? Is it 512, right? Like, is it any of those? Or if you're doing game consoles or something like that, you can ask the same thing. A lot of game consoles go up to 1 terabyte, right? Now, let's just take a Nintendo Switch as well, right? We can do the same thing. Which device is it? Any problems with it? Cool, it's a Nintendo Switch OLED. Great, cool. So instead of carrier, what can we ask? We can ask, how many games does it come with? Does it come with a charging dock? Does it come with this? Does it come with that? Right? We can ask these different questions, okay? And then we can kind of keep going down the list here, right? So, and then down here is like the last is like battery health and stuff like that, right? And then if that doesn't work, we tell the truth, okay? And telling the truth means, you know, hey, you know, basically telling them you're a reseller, and you guys would be surprised how actually well that works a lot of the times. It's like, hey, I do buy and resell things for a living. I'd love to buy your device, but unfortunately I can't buy it for that price due to where the market is at, right? For that device, okay? And then we go to the meetup, right? Step 4 is the meetup. So meetup, for phones specifically, we go, you know, iCloud, screen, back, LCD, volume, speaker, IMEI, miscellaneous, right? Things like that. For Nintendo Switch, it'd be things like the screen, you know, making sure it works, making sure the Joy-Cons work, making sure the charging cable works, making sure it charges, right? Things like that. With a PS4, I like to do a shake test on it and make sure there's nothing jiggling around in there, or a PS5, right? By the way, is all this making sense, guys? I hope this is making sense. Feel free to let me know if it's not, but I'm trying to explain it in the simplest terms ever. And by the way, you guys are probably like thinking like, Chris, you already knew how to do this stuff and blah, 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 blah. Guys, I didn't know how to do any of this stuff. Like in the beginning, I didn't know any of this. I didn't even know how to operate an iPhone, so you can do it. So yeah, I mean, with PS4s, I just usually make sure it turns on most of the time. And also I want to make sure the HDMI isn't like wiggly, because usually that means it's broken. So little tidbit there, right? Little tip. Okay, and then we move to step 5, all right? Step 5 here is we sell on eBay, Swappa to direct buyers, which is what DB means, and then Mercari, okay? That's where we sell our devices. It can be any one of the 4, or you can sell locally too. I don't really care. As long as you sell it and you make a profit, I'm happy, okay? So that's pretty much the whole thing, guys. And like also in the selling part, I know a lot of you guys are probably worried about like, well, I don't ship stuff, Chris. Like I don't do that, okay? Guys, understand. I had never shipped anything from the post office ever before I started flipping electronics, okay? Like I had never flipped a device. So I understand where you're coming from, okay? All of this stuff here that I just showed you, it's 5 steps, right? However, everything is hard until it's not, right? And most of the things that you think are hard, they aren't really that hard until you actually do it once, and then you're kind of off to the races after that. So I'll go ahead and open up Q&A for you guys. I'll go ahead and hold this up for one more minute and kind of go over it a little bit more. But as you guys can see, this is the whole process, how it all works. We have the automated sourcing method, Facebook, 115 methods. So we got a campaign, an ad set, 5 ads. And just to clarify, these ads are running on $1 each. The campaign controls it at $5. Okay. Then we get our leads from Facebook, Google, Instagram, right? And then we appraise, based on the average of everything. Down here, we do our negotiation, where we just ask a whole bunch of questions, seeing if we can go up in the price for the customer, meetups, and then selling to whoever, right? So that's the overall process in a nutshell, explained, right? I hope I explained that well enough. Let me know in the comments if I explained it well enough for you guys to understand. What's up, Keith, Stephanie, Eric? Awesome, got quite a few people on here, fantastic. But this is the overall view of everything. And then I do want to show you guys one more thing. I just created this the other night as I'm trying to create like very good visual processes for things. So I want to show you guys the mini streams method as well. So the mini streams method is this right here. So a lot of people put a lot of their focus specifically on phones. Okay, so I don't really put a huge emphasis on phones. They still are like a staple of my business, but the mini streams method, guys, is where you buy multiple different types of electronics. You can see iPhones, Samsungs, MacBooks, game consoles, watches, cameras, VR sets, and then miscellaneous things, right? And then all of it is funneled. All of these leads for all of these different devices are funneled into your business, okay? And then they all come out either selling on eBay, Swappa, direct buyers, or locally, okay? And this is where you profit on this side. So, and you guys, like a lot of people are talking about, creating multiple streams of income, right? Well, this is a really good way to do that, okay? But it's all within one business. So, and what this is called is vertical integration, okay? So you're vertically integrating things into one business, right? Instead of horizontally integrating, which is starting multiple different businesses, which requires more effort on your part, okay? With electronics, the great thing about it is, especially with reselling, is you can vertically integrate things. You can add iPhones, Samsungs, MacBooks, game consoles, watches, cameras, VR sets. You can add diabetic test strips. You can add all kinds of different things into this one, buyback business, and where it's one to many streams of income, if that makes sense. Okay. So that's how all that works, guys. That's the whole process. So for those of you that, have any questions, feel free to go ahead and ask. If you have any questions, and let's see. I don't see any coming through, so totally cool. All right, cool. I hope this was helpful to you guys. If you guys are interested in, getting help setting all of this up, then I'm going to put a link down below for you where you guys can book a call directly with me, where we will build out a game plan very specifically for you and your business. Does it take a long time to create a Google ad? If you don't have a website, yes, you have to have a website to create a Google ad. So with me, it doesn't take long at all, because we already have everything set up. So let me put this in here for you guys. There you go. Cool. And by the way, if you guys, if you're just looking to get your feet wet, which I know many of you are with reselling, and you want to understand that entire process that I just showed you, get my ebook, right? I have an ebook that walks you through the process on how to get started with this. Now, I'm gonna be real with you guys. The whole point of that ebook is to get you to the point where you can then work with me directly. That's the whole point of it. There's my plug. There's my ulterior motive, right? But I want you guys obviously making a little bit of money before coming to work with me anyway. Just so, because it's easier for me whenever you understand the process a little bit better. So I'm going to drop my ebook link for you guys in the comments. So recently for profit. There you go, guys. So check those out. But if you are the kind of person who's like, Chris, I just want to get everything up and running, I want my business started, then I would also recommend the Recelerator program for you. Okay. So anyway, guys, hope you guys have a fantastic evening. I got to go buy a few things here in a little bit. So you guys keep crushing it, and I'll see you guys later.